So life has continued to pile on me. If you watch my recent update video, you know what I'm talking about. I have a cold now, or at least I hope it's just a cold. And I feel terrible. I had to do like 20 minutes of vocal exercises just to not sound like I was dying for this recording. But I really want to get to recording stuff again, so I'm going to push through regardless. And no lie, honestly, we're talking about something a little easier today. An early episode of Amphibia again, just to help me kind of get back in the swing of things as I recover from everything that's been going on. Today we're talking about, what's it called, Domino Effect? Yeah, the Domino Effect and Taking Charge, which are two more Season 1 episodes, and I remembered bits and pieces of these, but not, like, the entirety of them, so going back and revisiting them, especially considering that there's some important stuff here for later. Stuff that we never would have expected was important that turned out to be important for later. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun revisiting these. Domino Effect was the one of these two that I remembered more going into them, in part because Domino 2's return in the final season did remind me of this episode a bit, right? And this is a pretty funny episode. It has a lot of that trademark Amphibia humor in it, very snappy, very witty, situational stuff. But it's just a funny episode in and of itself. Domino 2, despite being some insect monster, is very cat-like, so there's a lot of cat behavior jokes in this episode, and I always find cat humor to be pretty funny. And in particular, Anne's line in this one, Domino was irreplaceable, but now I've found a replacement, is one of her funnier lines in the entire show. I also absolutely love the brick joke with Hop Pop here, where throughout the entire episode he's complaining about pets, since they want to bring this pet into the house, and they try asking him first, only for him to get mad at the mere idea of it and then start complaining about one of their former pets. And throughout the entire episode, he's complaining about this pet and all of the horrible things it did and how he's the one who had to take care of it. But then, at the end, when Anne tries to explain why she brought this deadly creature into the house, he breaks down and admits that he misses this other pet, which is just... That scene had so much dad energy, because, like, you always hear the stories of the dads, like, no, we're not getting a dog, and then he's the one who falls in love with the dog, right? It has such strong dad energy from a time in the show where Hop Pop still had, like, dad or grandpa energy before he was kind of flanderized a little bit. And just the extremes of his emotions here, and the extreme anger to the extreme sorrow, made for a really effective brick joke that they carried throughout the entire story flawlessly. Like some other early episodes, though, most of the story of this one is conveyed through montage. Most of the scenes of Anne interacting with Domino 2, and most of the scenes of Domino 2 becoming increasingly interested in eating the planters, are conveyed through montage. And it's a funny montage. But, like, I had forgotten how many early episodes of the show use this technique. And, like, I would have preferred something with a little bit more substance. Some actual, like, drawn-out scenes with a little more substance in this one. But the sequence at the end, where Domino 2 chrysalises and grows into the... Do they name the species here? Because I don't remember what it's called. But the giant cat moth thing that returns in the final season, actively attacking the planters, and then Anne has to step in and lead her away, draw her away so that she doesn't hurt her new adoptive family, saying goodbye to this thing that she's bonded with and cares about. Because, like, even before Domino 2 goes off to try to eat Anne's friends, there is a moment where you can tell there is a connection between them. It's just that connection is not strong enough to deter her from eating after she has just finished going through a metamorphosis, which is a thing that takes a lot of calories. But having to abandon that bond to save the planters is a really genuinely emotional scene. And, as it's happening, we get a brief little montage of some of the scenes from that earlier montage of them bonding, which gave the show an opportunity to really show us its anime roots. And because elements from this episode do come back later, it is an important episode regardless. I don't think it's the strongest of these early episodes that I've gone back and revisited, but I definitely did enjoy the experience of watching it, and there is a lot to like here. Though, I gotta say, between there being a creature that is this much like a cat here, especially one that looks this much like Anne's actual cat back home, and then, like, them hinting that there were human counterparts to some of the frog characters on Earth in this multiverse, I'm surprised the show never did more with, like, character doppelgangers. It really seemed like Amphibia and Earth really were supposed to be, like, worlds that were directly parallel to each other, and that idea just kind of got dropped at some point. I really would have liked to have seen how things would have turned out if that was true, though. Taking Charge, I also remembered as I was watching it, but, like, in a weird, offhand, intellectual way. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of the events of this one, even though I know I've watched every episode of this show. I did not remember the specifics at all. Like, I remembered there was an episode where they watched a show that was basically, like, Lost. And then I remembered that Anne keeps her phone charged using electric bugs. But, like, I didn't really remember any of the specific context of any of that. But this is that episode. Anne realizes that she somehow has the next season one of her favorite shows on it, Suspicion Island. It must have auto-downloaded before she got zapped to Amphibia. And so she watches it with the family. And Hop Pop finds it just awful. Just the worst kind of entertainment. But the others are all into it. So after they stop for the night, the next morning, when someone has watched the rest of the season, draining the battery on her phone, they all start to suspect each other. Except for Hop Pop. Nobody really suspects Hop Pop. They point fingers at him to kind of discredit him and what he's saying, because they all get kind of into the mindset of the types of characters on Suspicion Island. But nobody really suspects that it's him, which makes it obvious that it's him. Let's not kid ourselves. But it's still handled pretty well by the episode. The entire family has to travel to a place a half a day's journey away where these electric bugs, where they call Zappipeds, I think, live, so they can try to use their electricity to recharge the phone, because without it, Anne doesn't have any lifeline back to her life on Earth anymore. All of her memories are cut off from her, and she's starting to panic over that. But the way is hampered by the fact that they are all treating each other with suspicion. So a journey that should have been relatively easy for people like the Planters, who are pretty world-weary, ends up being really dangerous. They start to dig in on each other as they're crossing a rickety bridge, and then the bridge collapses and they all fall to their deaths. I'm kidding. They definitely should have died from that fall, but instead they just find more Zappipeds, and to keep the other three from fighting pretty savagely, honestly, Hop Pop admits that it was him, and we get a really funny scene that I can't believe I had no memory of going into it, where the events of the previous night and that following morning are recontextualized, and we see how Hop Pop was able to hide the fact that he enjoyed the show from everybody. Like, there's scenes of him hiding under a table and clinging to the ceiling so he's not noticed. It was good. It was really good. And then he jumps into the pit with all the Zappipeds and risks his life to recharge Anne's phone. And the scenes of him getting shocked and trying desperately to crawl away, well, they shouldn't have been hilarious, were absolutely hilarious. And then the subsequent scene where the others lower themselves down to reach him, only for them to remember at the last second that, oh crap, he's being electrocuted, and then they get electrocuted too, was also very funny. And early on in the episode, when Hop Pop is trying to discourage the others from getting roped in by Anne's, let's not kid ourselves, the CW level of drama, we get an early hint to his love of theater when he tries to entertain them himself by performing a scene from, I don't know if it was supposed to be specifically a play or just like a book that he likes, but like he tries to perform a scene for them. So that was nice. That was something I hadn't noticed on my first time through, that his love of the theater was hinted at prior to us just being told about it. All in all, the fact that I didn't remember these episodes super well, and remembered one of them less than the other even as I was rewatching it, tells me that these weren't the most memorable episodes for me, but I think they're going to stay pretty memorable for me at this point. I think revisiting them like this is going to give me a chance to remember them all over again, which is almost like having 2 new stories with these characters to experience, which is always a good thing, I think, right? Considering how much I do love this show. So at the end of the day, I do feel pretty good about these episodes, and they are good episodes in themselves. Maybe not the best that I've watched so far upon this rewatch, but good episodes nonetheless. As per usual though, guys, what do you think of the episodes The Domino Effect and Taking Charge if you have seen them? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else who you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description, but either way, this has been AJ22 and I will talk to you guys later.